Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. My name is Jamie and today we are going to start a pantry challenge. We have a garden to be harvesting. We have things to preserve, but first let's start organizing and getting things back into order. So we're going to be preserving some fresh fruit, some veg. We'll be doing a little bit of cooking as well. Let's deal with a deep freezer in an upcoming video and a meal plan, but for now I hope you're ready for the journey. This morning I started getting my camera and filming equipment ready. This is kind of the before state of my pantry, and I'm not gonna lie, it was so strange picking my camera back up, trying to get myself to just film. I've been wanting to chat to you guys again for so long. Once you're out of the habit, it's so difficult. So here I am just showing you the current state of my deep freezer, my fridge. I actually did start by cleaning out and defrosting both my fridge and freezer in my small kitchen, so that feels really good to have got done. And the next step is to clear out my pantry. I really don't need to have a circular sign there. I'm wanting to do an inventory. I just grabbed a notepad, some pens, made myself a coffee, and really get into the mindset of tackling today. So my youngest is at nursery, so I don't have a lot of time, but I'm really confident that we can accomplish a lot today. I've dropped him off. Let's just start by clearing out the pantry. So this is kind of the process that seems the hardest because it's a first step. Just grab whatever you can, put it on your counter. It's as simple as that, but there are a lot of benefits that comes to actually doing this and clearing everything out in one go. And I've learned this a lot from decluttering over the years. In this way, I end up already having physically touched every item. I see what is opened, what I've been using, things that are really running out, like this bottle here of vinegar has got like half a tablespoon left. Decided to actually pay extra attention to all my flour. Now I have flour that's expired in the past few months. I have flour that's got like a year onwards. With flour, because I use it so much in baking and bread making and my sourdough, I pick it up when it's an offer, and I've been quite bad at rotating it accordingly. So once I've cleared everything out and put it on the counter, it's time to actually give it a good clean. I'm just using a white vinegar spray. It's also often cheaper to just buy this specific one. I don't mind using this for now. I'm using microfiber cloths because I did buy them a long time ago and I keep rewashing them. Like I mentioned, I think a while ago, this is so dirty by the way, I'm so sorry, but I actually felt like I had to show you. This pantry has not been cleared out since my last pantry makeover, but boy, once I was finished, it felt amazing. I even scrubbed the walls because of all the marks, all the dirty fingerprints, you know, it happens. And we have this peel and stick paper on here, so we're in a rental house, and this peel and stick paper were on here already and it was peeling off, but I just kind of worked it back on. Then I decided to sweep a little bit. I do hoover regularly in here, so it wasn't too bad. And once I cleaned out the pantry, it's time to start on the actual inventory. So I've got my list, and the first thing I wanted to do is note down, like my priority, the flour. And I decided, like always, to color code it. Yellow is the flour that has actually expired. The next one is the flour that is expiring in 2023, so the next 6 months. Blue, I believe, is the last one, which is anything that expires in 2024. I decided to put it where anything that needs using up is going to be closest to the door. So I'm going to try and work myself from left to right inwards and really feel motivated to use the things that are closest and more visible first. But that's why it's so good to rotate all your items and keep what needs using to the front. So here I am deciding to decanter, and this was a little bit overwhelming at first with all of my items. I wanted to decanter a lot of items that were kind of bulky, that were taking up space. These are just all my tea bags. This is Earl Grey, it's what I drink frequently. I also decided to wash a lot of canisters that become grubby. Like you can see, I have 2 boxes of corn flour and one of them is almost empty, but I do find it very impractical to use the corn flour from one of these little plastic bags. So I decanted it into a pot, and here I'm also decanting my honey. Now this is something I do all the time. I do buy larger jars of honey, but I find that it gets way too messy and I prefer kind of squeezy bottles. That's kind of a way that I save money and keep it so much less messy. So the 2 things that I shook together briefly in that jar was some, I think, bulgur and quinoa. I decided to mix the 2. They got a similar cooking time. They're both grains and it reduces the space and plastic in the pantry in the meantime. Here again, I'm choosing to use a smaller jar and getting rid of the larger plastic kind of bulk jar of bay leaves. And on the left, items we're keeping, and on the right were the spices that could really just be emptied, were empty already. Then it's time to go through kind of the condiments, the oils, and I think we're making quite a good progress. Another thing is, if you're anything like me, you might have spices in your pantry, but you put them where you use them the most. So my most used things end up in this cupboard right above the stove, mixed in with all of my cups, which are all odd cups anyway, and that's where they go. So it's really nice to actually remember to grab those, decanter those, sort them out, and find them a nice spot back in the pantry. These items like the peanut butter, the tuna, the gluten-free flour and an apricot jam are the only things that have properly expired and things that I don't want to be using. Here is the pantry after. It just feels so much nicer. I have a lot of fruit and vegetables to go in this fridge. They're actually under the buggy from this morning. We headed into the market, me and Hunter, and grabbed some fruit and vegetables that I'll show you later, but I haven't put them away yet. He's back from nursery. It's time to make some dinner, and I'm going to make it super simple. So we had 2 steaks that Hunter's dad had left. I just decided to make some steak wraps, a little bit of leftovers, use up some eggs. I'm not going to lie, this went down really well. Coconut oil and some salt, some pepper, fried them with a bit of butter. I decided to put some soy sauce for a quick sauce into the pan, dash of milk. Here is that corn flour that I decanted, and it was so much easier using it straight out of the jar. The only thing is that I would never recommend is just using it straight in. You should always put it in with some water. Sometimes when it's just me, I'm cooking for myself and Hunter, not the rest of the family, like this was for me, I'm going to do a quick pound sauce, and I decided to save myself the washing up of one other little glass jar and just throw it in. So the key here is to just stir it properly. But you get used to these things, but it was so nice. It had a lot more flavor than I expected, and sometimes when you just throw things together, it turns out really, really flavorsome. I'm not one of the most aesthetic cooks, but I do like to have a great variety of different nutrients and just good, tasty food. Here I'm adding some more butter to the pan after giving it a little washing away, and 2 eggs. I used to not be able to scramble eggs as they are. I had to add milk or butter. Here was a tiny bit of butter, a little bit of sea salt, but the thing with these fresh eggs is they're just wonderful. I love to scramble them more than anything. For plating up, when it's just me and my toddler, I will use as few dishes as possible, adding some grated mozzarella, again left over from our tacos at the weekend. I wrap for Hunter, and I diced up about half a steak for him for this wrap, and he loved it. It's such a great way to sneak in vegetables, but he especially loves scrambled eggs. I used to not love the taste of them plain. They had to be like butter, milk, fluffy, maybe even cream, but now I completely see what he sees in them, and we can enjoy our simple meal together, just me and him. So it's the next morning and I just fed my sourdough starter, and it's time to tackle a few of the vegetables from the garden. My first task is to peel and pod the broad beans. So I decided to pod and peel them all into this glass dish. I honestly wasn't sure how many beans I would get. So I've got 3 different types. I've got the Super Acqua Dolce Masterpiece, which is a long, kind of the greener, slimmer pods. Okay, so now it's breakfast time, and I do make yogurt, but I don't strain it. So you can see I leave the whey in there. It kind of collects throughout the week, and I just stir and pour in individually how much they like. So my youngest like a thicker version. I prefer thinner, and my eldest a little bit of in between with strawberries and honey. So at this point in the morning, it's time to feed and give the chickens some water. And once that's done, I always do a little bit of a garden tour. So I walk around and I look at everything. So we do have some cabbages, some zucchini, always zucchini, of course, some beetroot, our broccolis, flowered potatoes to the right, and then we have this first starch that's got some Scarlet Emperor beans currently in flower. This is bed number 1, and we do have these broad beans at the back, and a few of them are the Super Acqua Dolce one, and these ones at the front are Masterpiece. We also got some lettuce that's been completely ravaged by slugs, I believe, and against the fence we do have berry bushes. So they do have a couple of berries like the currants you saw. This is usually blueberries, but they get picked off by birds quicker than anything. Same with this one here. And then we have this Bromley at the back that we've just kept climbing. They can be quite intrusive, but the pollinators love them once they're in flower. And then we also have 2 raspberry bushes, a bit of cucumber in the greenhouse, and some pollinators on our squash / pumpkin bed. Once I've done that, I come back and collect the eggs and head inside. I would do a kind of larger, messy garden tour. I actually grabbed some dill here as well while I've been out. These seeds were like several years old, so we don't have the best germination, but I also don't need a lot. We're going to use this for some pickles, so it's time to strap the apron on again this morning, and we're going to start freezing some strawberries. I want to have a look at these avocados. So when I went to the market yesterday morning, I grabbed I think 4 pints of strawberries. They were 2 for £2, and they were very mature. These ones here are our strawberries for the past 2 days that also are very mature. These are our June strawberries that are the last of them, and then we have half the patch with kind of July and August flowering strawberries. So they're about to come into season, but we only have a couple of days of no strawberries. I picked some extra up to freeze while they're a lot cheaper. So to freeze these, which actually all the kids eat them frozen, I don't. Hunter obviously is eating them fresh here. I do want to flash freeze them. I find that stops them from all sticking and clumping together. So I just cut them up, wash them, spread them out on some parchment paper, and then I just put them in the deep freezer. And you'll be able to see the state of a deep freezer here. We are going to get to that hopefully in a future video. You saw the box I just picked up, that's not strawberries, that is all the strawberry tops that I'm hoping to make use of soon as well. So I'm cutting up these avocados. They were £5 for a pound, and they were like the last ones he had, and unfortunately they were all very brown, and my goal was to freeze a few bags of those to pull out with some lemon, and I got one bag. And I just kind of scraped around what looked okay, just not completely wasted. And then I headed back out into the garden to grab some of our Super Aqua Dolce broad beans. Those broad beans, they're kind of coming out now. We actually sowed the seeds in February, I believe, so it's been a long time. And the ones you saw at the front, a lot healthier. We direct sow in May, and they are just flowering and getting beans now. I have boiled the beans, and I just tested peeling one. You just put them in boiling water after you peel them for about 2-3 minutes depending on the size, and then straight into some ice water. And I'm going to do the same with some of the zucchini that we have. Boil them for like 2 minutes and then straight into ice. Then it's back to the strawberries because they are frozen through, and you can see this is a scrumpled bag because I do wash and reuse these Ziploc bags, and I love them. These are quite large, they're at least 2 liters or so. And to put the beans, it's so simple. You just slice them with a nail like you saw there and pop them up. So now I'm going to prepare my brine, and I'm going to mix 2 cups of filtered water with 2 cups white vinegar. There you go. Pop the dill we picked earlier into the bottom of a jar with some lightly bruised garlic, cloves, pepper, and fill it up with broad beans. Now I have a little bit of headspace up to the rim, so I did fill it up with peas in the end. I dissolved sugar and salt and added some spices to the brine and topped it off fully in the jar and placed it in the fridge. The kids were doing some artwork at this point, and then we headed out into the garden for a 1st July strawberry. It was huge. At this point we have some pests in the garden, but we got some beneficial insects here working on them. So for lunch we had some sourdough pancakes and used an old banana, the frozen strawberries, some whipped cream, and it was delicious. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon. God bless.